Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. It's your girl Emmy here. For those who don't know, now you know. Welcome back to my channel. In this video we will be talking about astrological aspects. Who would have thought we would have done that on this channel? So yeah, before I get into it, you know what to do. On that button right there, you're gonna hit the red one and make it white, right? I guess it's gray. And then you're gonna hit the thumbs up. What are aspects, right? Aspects are the lines that are in your birth chart. They are either red or blue. It's one line pointing to another, from one planet to the other, another side of your chart, and those are aspects. 5 main aspects, which are the ones that we're going to be talking about in this video, but there are minor aspects as well, which I won't be getting into in this video. So aspects are all about the degrees in between the houses and the planets. So there is a bit of geometry in this, but it's really not that complicated, so don't worry. So what this line represents, that the aspect represents in astrology, is it gives you insight on the balance between the two planets. It gives you insight on if there is a push and pull between the two planets, the two energies. So think about how sometimes, like in my videos, I'll talk about Mars in Scorpio. You're probably someone that is very 0 to 100, all in it or nothing, but also very like intense and passionate with the things that you do. This might not resonate with you if you have something aspecting your Mars. Like let's say you have your moon aspecting your Mars and your moon is in Pisces, or let's say it's an earth sign, right? You might be less quick to make decisions. If you're in an air sign, you might be more quick to make decisions. Nobody's chart looks the same, which is why when I make those videos, of course there's going to be people who say this doesn't apply to me because I'm not reading your actual birth chart. If you have your moon or Mars, for example, your Mars is, if it's in the 5th house versus the 3rd house versus the 9th house, you know, all these things are going to be different. If two people both had Scorpio and Marses, but they're in different houses, they're going to play out differently. And of course, there's going to be different things aspecting it. It's going to play out differently, especially since your sun signs are different or your moon signs are different. At the end of the day, astrology really is just a flow and a blend of energies. So it's really hard to just say, because you have this, you are this for sure. And aspects kind of reassure that in a way, because whatever your aspect is to whatever planet and whatever house is going to change the story dynamic, is going to change the relationship between the houses and the planets, and it is going to change the story as a whole. So there are like quote unquote more positive and more negative aspects, but that's not really like something I like to call it, just because there are more harmonious aspects which tend to make things easier, but when things are easier, you don't really grow as a person. And of course, there's harder aspects, which would be like oppositions and squares, which could make more challenges come along. But sometimes challenges are good, especially in this aspect where things could have been harder for you in the beginning when it comes to these type of planets or these type of aspects. But at the same time, it teaches you something. There's a learning lesson, and you know, when things are difficult, you're more able to figure out what needs to be improved versus if there's never a challenge in that area. I don't like calling them positive or negative, but there are, you know, more harmonious and ones that can provide a little bit more obstacles, okay? But obstacles, you know, you can't be afraid of a challenge, all right? So I'm gonna start with the positive ones, and I'm gonna start with the shortest degree to the longest degree. You know, the harder one, smallest to negative, biggest degree. Okay, so the first aspect that we're gonna talk about is a conjunction. I feel like you've probably heard of a conjunction. Conjunctions normally mean that there's 2 planets that are within 5 degrees of each other. If 2 planets are within 5 degrees of each other, they're most likely in the same house. But that's not always true. So when something conjuncts, it's complementary, right? So conjunctions in astrology, it allows the energies of 2 planets to be integrative and harmonious. So conjunctions allow the 2 planets to integrate. Now this could be a positive thing or a negative thing. It really just depends on the relationship between the 2 planets that are conjuncting, right? For example, if you have Venus conjuncting your sun, then you're probably someone that's very charming, very easy to get along with, things like that in that nature. Of course, it depends on what sign everything is in. Where if you have a conjunction with Venus and Mars, that can make things a little bit more complicated because the values of the 2 planets are very opposite. So it's kind of like finding where is that middle ground. Like where is being a team player, because Venus likes the collaboration, right? and where is Mars where it's able to take action in itself and speak its mind. Like finding that balance could be a little bit harder, but you know, challenges are good, right? Or like if somebody has their sun and moon conjuncting in Gemini, because conjunction means that they're probably gonna be in the same sign and in the same house. If your sun and moon are both in Gemini conjuncting, this would have a harder time blending because the sun and the moon don't have similar values. You know, the moon is a lot more introverted. It's a lot more about close connections, where the sun is kind of what people see right away. It likes to be seen as well. So somebody who has a sun and moon in Gemini conjuncting, it could be harder for you to make decisions. So because it's all about integrating two planets, conjunctions do tend to be more positive. But at the same time, if it is two planets that have two different values, then it could be a little bit more on the unpredictable side of things. So when you're looking at a chart, or if you're trying to learn your own chart, you know, pay attention to if you have a conjunction. It's pretty easy to find anything between 0 and 10 degrees that are the same. So if you have a planet that's in 15 degrees Gemini and 21, then it would be a conjunction. So take a look at the two planets, take a look at the sign it's in, take a look at the house and it's in, and try to just read that. Try to read what that represents. They're all playing into a bigger picture. They're all playing a part in this certain area. So there is a bit of intuition that is required here. Overall, look for the themes that would work or contract, that would be complementary or contracting, and figure out how those two planets would play a part. Yeah, so look at the houses that the conjunct planets are in. Pay attention to what the planets represent. Do the planets seem like they represent something that is complementary or non-complementary? What would that blend look like? What does it look like with the sign that it's in? What would that represent in the house that it's in? And just looking for the themes that would contrast or contradict, and looking for the themes that would work. The next one is sextiles. Sextiles is also more of a positive aspect. This is the line that connects two planets that are 60 degrees apart. Each house is 30 degrees. So a sextile would be a line that is two houses away from the original planet. So sextiles are kind of like conjunctions where it is a complementary blend of the two planets. I guess you could say this is a bit more positive than a conjunction because it's like compatibility, like there's a bit more compatibility between the planets. So how this would play out in someone's chart would be, it would be an area of life depending on the house. If you had a sextile, the line would represent that it's something that comes naturally to you, or an area of life that comes naturally to you. So if it's your sun and your Mars, or your Mercury, maybe Mercury and Mars, like talking to people is natural for you. You never really doubt yourself when it comes to that, because it's just, you're naturally good at it. You might even be good at public speaking. Like some people may be like, oh my gosh, how do you do that? How do you talk to people? And it's like, oh, I don't even think about it. It's a skill that you naturally possess. Sextiles, they kind of bring out the positive aspect of both planets, where conjunctions can bring out the positive or the negative of both planets. I think one of the things that makes sextile a bit more a complementary thing versus a conjunction is the fact that so the houses are always going to go in a certain order. Two houses away would mean that they're in a complementary sign. The first house is Aries. Two houses away would be 3, and that would be Gemini. Fire and air is complementary, right? If your second house, right, is Taurus, 2 houses away is Cancer. So that's complementary. Taurus and Cancer, earth and water. So because these elements are going to complement itself, because it's not like 2 houses in fire. So it's like, it's a lot more like, rah, rah, you know, it has something that balances it out in a way, or something that makes it a bit more structured, or whatever the saying, whatever the situation is in your chart. You can look at a sextile as more positive, since it doesn't really bring out any challenges, but at the same time, sextiles don't really push a person to grow, right? So it's like, if you're naturally good at talking to people, like the example I just mentioned, you're not gonna think about how to be a better conversationalist, or how to speak in public better, or how to like engage with people in a deeper way, or I don't know, a more thought-provoking way, whatever the situation may be, because it's like, you feel like you're already good in that area. It's not going to push you to take action or give more, do more. So that's why like positive aspects aren't always like so positive, because staying stagnant, it won't help you grow. It won't help you evolve as a person. There's no, how do you say growth? Up next, we have a trine. A trine is a very positive aspect in a chart. This is the relationship between planets that are 120 degrees from each other. 120 divided by 3 is 40, right? So 4. So this means that a trine would be 4 houses away. So that means that you're looking at the same element but another sign, right? So the first house is Aries. The 4 houses from there is 5. That's Leo. The 5th house is Leo. 5 houses from that is Sagittarius, or 4 houses from that is Sagittarius. If you have a grand trine, which I think is a bit more rare to have, but a grand trine would basically mean that you have one in your Sagittarius, since we said Sagittarius, Aries, and Leo. Like if you have all 3, if you have a line that's connecting all 3, it is possible, but that's called a grand trine, for example. So that would be all, because there's only 3 fire, 3 water, 3 air, right? And so you would have all your fire houses aspecting. So naturally, this would be even more harmonious than a sextile or a conjunction, right? Trines bring good luck or opportunities. So if you have a trine with your Mars and your Saturn, you might naturally attract career opportunities. If you have something trining with your Neptune and your Mercury, you might attract creative opportunities. Or maybe even your moon, like your moon and your Mercury or Neptune, like you might attract a lot of creative type opportunities as well. So yeah, trines it's just kind of like an area of blessing that you get. You know, maybe if you have Venus and Mercury that are trine, like making a trine, you might just have great relationships in your life. So these are areas that bring blessing and opportunity, or it could even be gifts that you possess. You know, maybe you're really good at instruments naturally and can play like 8, that this line could interpret that as well. Of course, it does depend on the sign, and of course, it does depend on the house that it's in. But at the same time, yes, these are gifts and blessings and whatnot. But at the same time, trines, they don't challenge you to grow. They don't allow you to acknowledge the blessing that you are receiving because it's something that you've always experienced. You know, you might not have that appreciation of, wow, I'm always lucky to find a job, or I'm always lucky to find a creative opportunity. So you could possibly take these opportunities for granted because you attract them so naturally. So we just went over the more positive aspects. Those are the blue lines in your chart. Now let's go over the harder aspects, which are the red lines in your chart. Okay, so a square is a 90-degree angle between 2 planets. It represents more restrictions and obstacles that you may face depending on what the houses the 2 planets are in. A square is a 90-degree angle that is between 2 planets. This normally represents more hardship and obstacles, or like restrictions and obstacles. So 90-degree means that it's 3 houses away from the original house, right? So it would be the same modality. So they have that sort of relationship. So if you have a Scorpio and Aquarius square, it might be something that you're a lot more rigid around in things of this nature. So think of it as kind of like an argument between 2 people who want to be right, that are just too stubborn to see how similar they really are. So a square can bring out that tension between 2 planets. So this is very like Saturn type energy, Saturn rules restrictions. So this could be an area in your life where challenges just consistently. If you feel like you have a hard time dating, or it could be that you have a square for your Venus, or maybe even your Mars or Jupiter. Squares are tough, they push you to grow. That's one of my favorite things about astrology, is that it can really help with self-reflection and personal development. A square is wanting you to make change, because once you overcome and understand your challenges, you're able to grow as a person. So don't think because you have a square that it's destined to not work. Squares aren't bad, they're just gonna push you to grow and be better. The next one is an opposition. The opposition is a 180-degree angle. So this would be from 1st house to 7th house, basically the opposing sign or sister sign. Some say that this is harder than a square. Some say that it is easier, because I'm kind of indifferent, just because opposites attract. But this is something that is very situational depending on what you have in your chart. Oppositions do have a level of compatibility, just because opposites attract, and it's going to be in your opposing sign. Aries opposite is Libra, so that complementary of opposing elements. Sorry y'all, my phone is telling me that I'm almost out of storage, so I have to say this as fast as I can. So oppositions, right? Opposites attract. So that can be negative, that can be positive. There's a level of one trying to take the lead because they are opposing. Think about like opposites ends of a battery. There is a little bit of friction. So that's kind of what an opposition causes in your chart. There is like a push and pull, or like a seesaw, where the level of dominance is constantly changing. This would mean that in your chart, it's hard to find balance depending on what areas of life, what house and what planets these are in. So this could just be something that is a bit frustrating for you because you know you're could be balancing two ends of the extreme. This is something in your chart where you have to find the happy medium. Like I said, my phone is I'm out of storage, so I'm saying this as fast as I can. Like this video, subscribe to my channel if you're not. I hope this was helpful. I'm so sorry that I had to rush at the end. Okay, bye.